What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to another Yu-Gi-Oh! End of Arc. For people that are new to the channel and don't know what this segment is on my channel, it is a segment right now that I've been doing after every Yu-Gi-Oh! Sevens arc that is concluded. What I'll do is I'll basically recap the arc, talking about like the characters from that arc, talk about each individual character. Sometimes I'll group them up, sometimes I'll talk about just an individual character. I'll kind of recap the duels, I will recap like the episodes. I won't fully talk about those because I do ranking videos on those already, and then I do the reviews, obviously. So I feel like this gets a chance to just combine everything, like put all the pieces together and just talk about the whole arc as a whole. And then at the end, I will be rating what I rate this out of 10 for this arc. And I'm very excited to get into this. This is the second one we're doing for Yu-Gi-Oh! Sevens Maximum Arc. It just concluded last week with episode 26, so I'm very excited to be talking about this. So the thing that I want you guys to do in the comment section below, there's 3 questions I want you guys to answer. And the 3 questions are, the first one is, who do you think the MVP of this arc was? Like, out of all the characters from this arc, what was the MVP, or who is like your favorite, basically? Along with what was your favorite duel from this arc. If you want to put your least favorite, you can. And then tell me what your favorite episode was from these 13 episodes. I would really like to know, and obviously put your ratings down below as well for this arc, because those are the most exciting ones out of all of them. Even though I like to see what the community thinks about like the episodes, the duels, and the characters, I definitely want to see what everyone thinks of the whole thing as a whole. So I'm very excited to get into this, guys. So let's not waste any time and let's get started. So we're going to first start off with the characters for this segment, as I feel like the characters are definitely the most I talk about in this arc, because I already talked about the others and I don't really talk about the individual characters in their own videos. That's kind of why this video exists. So we're going to start with the characters, and obviously we got to start with our main protagonist, Yuga. I thought Yuga was great in this arc. I thought he had probably the best growth in terms of being able to grow as a character from all of the characters that were in this arc. You know, he ended up suffering a horrible loss to Neil. I mean, he literally got OTK'd against Neil when he in episode 23, when he was shocked about, and he was also shocked about the fact that Neil was able to tamper with his rush duel program and was able to put maximum summoning in there. Like, he was like, he basically was out of it. Like, he went through this whole inner struggle with Neil, and I felt like the growth after that, and then even like the interactions between his friends were great. You know, this character definitely got me some respect from episode 19, which was the Sebastian duel. When Yuga kind of talks about like all the different stuff that his roads that he's built in the past, the friend Rook, Gakuto, and Roman were trying to, like, you know, get rid of it because it was junk. But just to see how much he cares about this, like, roads that he makes, really made me respect that character a lot. And then, like, the speech he gave before he went up and grabbed Kaizo's chair, I really did respect, because he really cares about these roads that he creates. Like, they're basically his babies in a way. So I do really respect him for that. And even with his friends as well, it doesn't just go with the roads that he makes. I just think that was an important one too. But his friends, when his friends Roman, Rook, and Gakuto were willing to risk their dual ID cards to help Yuga beat Neil, he immediately shut them down. And this surprised the 3 of them, because they started laughing and said, "Oh, I thought you would be jumping the gun and doing this to kind of beat Neil. Like, you love to invent all these types of stuff and inventing your own maximum cards. I thought you would jump the gun in it." But Yuga states that, or what we get from this is that when it comes to his inventions, if it tampers with somebody's dreams or might even hurt the person themselves, he's like, "No, I'm not putting my friends on the line for this at all. I would rather do it myself than to get other people involved," which made me really respect that, because literally this was ruining a dream, especially was ruining Rook's dream, because Rook wants to become the Duel King and he was willing to do that, and Yuga didn't want to do that. He ended up going with it anyway, but he was able to pull off the win anyway, so he was able to give the ID cards back. But just seeing that inner turmoil that he was having really made me respect his character for the fact that him caring about these people. I really do feel like he's almost like a young Yusei in a way. I really do get Yusei vibes from this character, and that's a good thing. I mean, I feel like everyone in the Yu-Gi-Oh community loves Yusei, so I feel like saying that comparison is a good thing. And just his dueling, he dueled twice, or he dueled 4 times in the series. He dueled Maguro in episode 15. He dueled Sebastian, which we got that's when we got that Kaizo scene, and then the 2 Neo duels. And he was the second person to ever Maximum summon, and I feel like his dueling definitely had improved as well. He definitely, I felt like, went away with Seven's Road Magician a little bit, because we also saw Lightning Bolt Kalendor along with Super Magtech Overroad. Super High Tech Mecha Overroad, I think is. I always forget the name. I do apologize. It's such a long name. I have a hard time remembering it. But being able to summon all these new monsters, I thought were great to see by Yuga, and just to see his growth was really great. And I will say though, he's not the MVP in my opinion, but he was this close. Easily had the best growth in his arc, and even though he doesn't beat it, I do think Yuga grew a lot from the first arc, and I can't wait to see what they do with them more. I will say though, if we combined both of the arcs, like all the episodes, Yuga would probably become my favorite character right now. I've been really enjoying Yuga, and I can't wait to see what they do with him going forward with his roads, and how basically Rush Duels is going to expand after this, because Neil has set the bar to like grow Rush Duels even more, so now Yuga needs to take that step to grow Rush Duels to its limits basically. So that's it for Yuga, and now let's get into the next character. Up next, I decided to start with my boy Rook. Gonna be honest, I still think Rook was still great in this arc. I feel like he did about the same as he did in the first arc. He dueled 3 times in this arc. He dueled against Schrodinger. He dueled against Arya. Oh, did he? Oh, and then he dueled against Otis, but we didn't actually see that duel. So even though he didn't do much as he did, I did respect him in this arc as well. When I mentioned episode 25 and how he was giving up his duel accounts to save Yuga, that was something I really respected from that character. And like I said with Yuga, the fact that he was willing to risk his duel account to be able to help him be able to win against Neil, I really did respect that character. And they even made a funny joke, just like, what are you going to do what are you going to do? Because if your ID account is gone forever, how are you going to become the King of Duels? And then he makes the joke, well, Yuga, if you become King of Duels, why don't you just hand the title over to me? And I thought that was a really funny scene. And another thing that I really liked about Rook was actually during the Schrodinger duel. Yes, so something good actually came out of the Schrodinger duel. When you saw like the conflict that he was having with Yuga, because at first he was like the only one that felt like he was going for the Duel King like title. He wanted to become the next King of Duels, and now that Yuga has participated in this, he feels like Yuga might actually beat him. He feels like out of all the characters that he's dueled, he feels like Yuga can actually take his title away from being the King of Duels, and this really hurt him in a way. And I feel like seeing that growth from there was really needed, because I feel like Rook has just been untouchable. I mean, he's won every single duel so far in the series, and I feel like showing that vulnerability during that duel to the point where it's like he doesn't even know if he's can become the Duel King made me really respect this character, because even though he's been doing great in dueling wise, he still has that fear, and it makes me really respect him in that way, because he doesn't just act like this powerhouse of a character, like no one can touch him. He does have fears of him losing, and that made me really respect this character. And hopefully we get more of that. I feel like Rook, honestly, and this is just an early prediction, I think there's a chance that Rook might lose in the next arc, so maybe we can get some growth from there as well. I feel like the side characters, like the the other main three characters, like Rook, Gakuto, and Roman, I feel like they didn't get as much growth as Yuga, so they're going to be a little bit shorter to talk about. But I feel like in some way they got some type of growth, I guess. I feel like Rook did get the most out of all three of them. I feel like the only one that came close was, I feel, Gakuto, so yeah, there's not really much to talk about them. I feel like it definitely was a big growth for Yuga in a way, so even though I feel like they didn't do as much, I still did enjoy them during this arc as well. And kind of learning, another thing too, actually, kind of learning about his watch. I think it's interesting that he is the only one that can activate this watch. I honestly thought we were going to forget the whole watch thing, and that was just going to be in the first arc exclusive. But we see that Yuga, Gakuto, and Roman all tried to use the devil's power, and they weren't able to use it because even Yuga thought he figured out what was going on with the watch because it was just like staticking a whole lot. He thought it was just a discharge from the watch, and it was making all these things like short circuits to the point of where they would shut off. And that apparently wasn't the case because when they tried to do it, it would not work. In fact, Rook has been the only character to use it so far, so I do hope we get a little bit more with that. We only saw it in that Arya episode and haven't seen it again since, which, mind you, that was like 3 episodes ago, I believe, because that was in episode, no, that was like 4 episodes ago, my bad. That was in episode 22, so hopefully we learn a little bit more about that, and yeah, that's my thoughts on Rook. Now we're going to go on to Roman. Roman, I feel like didn't really grow as much. I'm going to be completely honest. I think she's in the same boat with the other ones where she was willing to give up her accounts to basically help Yuga be able to beat Neil with these maximum cards. I feel like that was a great moment for all three of them, but I feel like for her in this arc, that was the only thing that I was really impressed of. Sure, she got another win against Arya Arata in episode 16, and a lot of people were happy about that because I don't think a girl character has won that quickly back to back, so I feel like people that love the girl characters, and I love girl characters, I think we've had some girl characters that were good, and we've had some okay ones and some not so good ones, but I feel like her being able to pick up wins that quickly is pretty impressive. I mean, I think that was only like it was like a 4 episodes. No, that was a 5 episode span because it was in episode 11 is when that duel happened when she beat Gakuto. But you guys know from episode 12 or episode 11 when I did my whole review on that, and even when I did the summary, you knew that I kind of had a problem with Roman's dueling, as I don't really like the way she's been dueling, and honestly, I feel like I'm probably like on the lower side opinion on Roman than a lot of people, because when I talk to people about Roman, a lot of people have been liking Roman a lot as a character. Some people might think that she might become the best girl that we have, and I do believe that that is a possibility. But if you've been in the channel for a while, you know that I just have not been liking her dueling at all. I don't like her going into this crazy mode where she has these red eyes and then she duels like she has no sense. Well, I shouldn't say no sense because she actually is smart when she's dueling, but act like she's a crazy person when she's dueling. I really have not liked it. And also do not like the fact that she uses it on the very last turn of the duel and then beats the opponent. I absolutely despise that crap. I don't really like it at all. And that is just something that's been hurting me with Roman's character. It looked like when she dueled Otis that she didn't have that power activated, so maybe this is just a choice that she has, because we now know it's not just her being hungry is the reason why she goes into this. I feel like it's some type of bad emotion, I would say, or like, I don't know. I don't think bad emotion, because I know, well, starving is bad. I just don't think like being angry, well, no, that is bad actually too. So when she has like a negative emotion, she kind of turns into this, and she turns into this crazy person with red eyes and then just duels insane. Though I will say though, she did I was impressed with some parts of the duel, but again, I have not really enjoyed her dueling, and I don't think she really had much story growing, but that's just because I feel like Roa was not really that a part of this arc. I felt like, and I will kind of talk about that with Roa, which I'll talk about him very briefly. I don't feel like he really did much in this arc, so I'll kind of explain my reasons on that. But I feel like she didn't really have anyone that can boost her up right now. So I feel like even though she didn't have much growth in this arc, I feel like later on, I feel like we can actually get a little bit more art, like more growth from her character. But for right now, I just don't think they had anything they could really do with her right now. So we might just have to wait for the next arc, or maybe the arc after this arc. We might just have to wait before we can get some more focus on Roman and her kind of growth. So that's just my opinions on Roman, and I definitely want you guys to let me know what are some things you want to see with Roman's character too. I know I'm asking a lot of questions, but that's something I really want to know. I think the only thing I honestly just want from Roman is to just stop using that. If she starts dueling like she did against Yuga and against Otis, I think I will be a little bit more better with her character. I just want them to drop that whole thing. I just really have not enjoyed that, but that's my personal opinion on it. And maybe go some more baggage with Roa. I mean, you know, they had that whole conflict before, and I really want to see that again. So maybe we'll see it in the next arc. I doubt it. I feel like that's not the route they're going to go, but we'll just have to wait and see. Now it's time to talk about my boy Gakuto. I am really happy about Gakuto in this arc. Guys, Gakuto is not going to become a meme character where he just keeps on losing. He won his duel against Otis. I am so happy that this character won. I really felt like he needed to get a win somewhere. I feel like he didn't really have much of a story that he really had to go on. Sure, you had like being a student council president, but kind of like Roman in a situation, I feel like they didn't really cover as much of it. I feel like it was in the same way of just being able to help Yuga with his maximum cards. I feel like that's only with Gakuto and Roman. I feel like that was the only thing that they've done with them in this arc. So I feel like with Gakuto, in a sense, I feel like it's the same way. I don't really know what they're going to honestly do with Gakuto, if I'm going to be completely honest. He is a character that's in the air, I feel like, because sure, you can do something with the school, but they honestly haven't really been back to the school. Like, yeah, they were at that like table outside of the school, but we haven't like seen a school episode like we got in episode 4 in a long time. In fact, that was really the only episode where we were actually in the school. Well, episode 5, I guess, kind of was, because you had the whole newspaper club and stuff. But I feel like Roman and Gakuto just didn't have that much they can really do in this arc. And I feel like we're just going to have to wait a little bit longer before we can actually get to them. I feel like they only really focused on Yuga and then was able to add Rook to some degree. But I felt like, just like Roman, I don't think Gakuto had much growth in terms of his story-wise. But in terms of a duelist, he definitely grew, getting his first win, and a pretty impressive win as well. Being able to beat Otis, and it was able to beat him using Red Eyes Black Dragon. That was a cool card to see, and he was able to deal it with ease. He was able to switch into defense position. We even got to see his new ace monster, Keme Ruler, and I thought that was great. I didn't mention what Rook. We also saw, like, I think it was something Dragon Bunker. It was like Drush Dragon Bunker Strike, I think was the name of the card. He summoned that too, and he used Chocolate Dragon, but I think he used that in the Amaya Yoshiro duel, so I can't really mention that as much. But we got to see Kemi Ruler. I thought that was a cool summoning. I think it's cool that if a monster's defense position, he can attack directly. I think it's a pretty interesting effect, especially since Gakuto's whole strategies around like switching monsters' positions, like manipulating the opponent's field to switch their monsters in the attack or defense position, so that way he can go for his direct attacks or get attacks off, or even for like his own protection. So I think that was pretty cool to see a little bit more growth to his deck. We didn't see Yami Ruler, sadly, but hey, that's okay. But again, there really isn't much to talk about Gakuto, but hey, let's go on to the next character, shall we? And this is going to be a pretty big character, I feel like. Now we are going to, instead of going to Roa was originally going to be the next one, but I decided to talk about this character. Now I will say though, the character that we're actually going to be talking about is who I believe was the MVP of this arc. This was my favorite character from this arc. Maybe from the entire series, not, but I feel like for this arc, he just hit it for me, and that is my boy Neil. Neil was, how do I say it? He was a necessary character, and I mean a necessary character for this show. I felt like Yu-Gi-Oh! Sevens has been definitely more on the comedic side of things. I mean, it's trying to be a little bit more lighthearted with their stuff. Like, they don't really care about, like, the stakes or whatever. They don't really make them that big or really like basically life threatening. I mean, they don't even follow it sometimes. I remember that Yuga versus Metsuboro duel, and Yuga won the chance to eat the ramen, but he decided to share it with Metsuboro even though that wasn't the case. And they did it a couple of times. So they were really just joking around with it and having a fun time. And then we get Neil. Neil brought the intensity to the show that it honestly really needed. I mean, it's fine to have a joke show, but you need to get serious when times need to get serious. And I feel like Neil brought it perfectly to the show, making it to the point where all these characters on Team Yuga would basically lose their accounts if they are losing the duels, and basically the entire group had to go and try to reach Neil's providence, his heaven, and to defeat him and basically save Rush Duels and save Kaizo, because he was able to obtain Kaizo, which was very important to Yuga to attract him down to him, to put him into this situation where he basically has to fight for his life. And I feel like he was able to bring it perfectly. I mean, I will say though that I loved Neil. I was kind of a little bit upset at first with the whole Mimi thing. I think the way they did that, I was a little bit disappointed of, and especially since I felt like they kind of copped out of a really cool opportunity where Neil kind of planned this out to where he knew that if Mimi lost or won, that they were going to get a penalty anyways, and I feel like that would have been a great move on Neil, but they didn't go that route. They just made it seem like a coincidence. And then at the end, which I'll talk about closer to the end actually of me talking about his character, I was not the biggest fan. I didn't want them to do that route, but it's the way they decided, so I'll be talking about that. But I feel like Neil was a good counterbalance to Yuga. He was able to go up against Yuga, and he did that very well. I mean, when he first summoned YGG Drago, it was insane. I remember when he summoned that card, and my jaw was basically on the floor. Like, I think it was honestly on the floor because I was in such a shock. And this character stayed calm and collective during all of his duels. He didn't get excited or anything like that, or he didn't like get all scared or anything like that. He stayed calm and collected, especially during that second duel. Like, every time he activated parallel shift to be able to send the cards back to his opponent's deck to have him redraw cards, he just stayed in the zone that entire time. He didn't like get excited about Rush Duels or anything. He stayed with his provenance, and I feel like that really made me fall in love with his character, and he was able to test the limits of Yuga as well. He helped Yuga grow as a duelist. He helped grow Rush Duels with maximum summoning, and I feel like he really brought the intensity and the growth of Rush Duels and just these characters, and I feel like I was really satisfied for what Neil did to this series. And I say that in that way, I worded that on purpose because after Yuga versus Neil round 2, he got 6 penalties. He gave himself 5 penalties before that duel and got the 6th one so he can no longer duel. Now, even though I sound like a negative Nancy, and I know a lot of people would like to see Neil again, and don't get me wrong, I love Neil. And Neil, again, was my favorite character, and I felt like if we got a little bit more with his dueling, he might become my favorite character in this show so far. But I feel like this is the end of Neil's story. I feel like they did this on purpose, unless they just decide to bring him back, which I feel like this ending would be meaningless. I feel like, what is the point of doing this if you're just going to bring the character back? I feel like they did this on purpose. They knew, like, okay, Neil's done. We need to move on to the next character. And I do feel like this is going to be the end of Neil. But this definitely does set a bar for these new antagonists, which I'll be talking about closer to the end of the video, where I kind of make predictions on where I think the show is going to be going forward. So I feel like Neil was really great for this arc, really what we needed for this arc, and even though he's going to be gone, I still enjoyed his character a lot, and I do believe that he was the MVP of this arc. And yeah, so I'm going to actually quickly go over the rest of Yuga's team, and then I'm going to go over the entire Neil team and kind of give my thoughts on them as a whole. I decided not to go full in depth about these characters because I felt like they didn't really do much. I will do 2 more characters after these. I just want to knock these ones out real quick. So let me kind of talk about them. The first one is Roa. Roa only dueled once in this arc. He dueled against his friend Geta, and I thought they had a great scene with that. I will say, though, I was a little upset what they decided to do with that, especially at the end, you know, when Roa saved his friend from falling in the hole, and you made that such a nice moment, and then you have that joke about Yuga building a drum robots for Roa really ticked me off. I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. I did not like to do that all. I didn't like that they did that because they were making a joke with that, and that's where I feel, and that's another thing with like Neil that I really did like too. He brought the intensity that I felt like these characters couldn't. I mean, you saw with this. I feel like Roa just joked around, and I like that about him. I think he gets serious when he needs to, and then he jokes around when he wants to. And I felt like he didn't do as much as he did the first arc. I mean, I feel like the only thing that he really did, I mean, we got the thing with Geta. I mean, he even sung a song for Geta about him, and I really did like that. But he was also like a counselor for Yuga when he was going through the trouble after losing to Neil, and he basically talked him out of it, and I really did respect him for that. Although I was upset that we didn't get to finish that conversation because Roa literally grabbed him by the collar and started to yell at him, and he seemed very intense. And then we never went back to that scene. I actually forgot to mention that when I did the episode 24 review, but that was something I was a little bit disappointed. I was kind of hoping they would cover that again, and maybe they'll still cover it later down the line, but I felt like not seeing it in this arc particular, especially since this was the one that kind of got his motivations back up to be able to go and challenge Neil again, I felt like was really great on his part, but I felt like he didn't do as much as he did in the last arc, which was a little bit disappointing. I mean, this is the rival character. This is the rival of our protagonist, and I felt like he didn't feel like a rival for this arc, which was a little bit disappointing, but it's okay. I feel like we're going to have plenty of interactions with him in Yuga. I feel like he's going to be more in the story again. I just felt like they didn't have the time to do it with it. I think they just really wanted to focus on growing rush duels, and Yuga in particular, I feel like was a main character they really wanted to grow in this arc, if I'm going to be completely honest, and like kind of show the bond between Yuga and his friends. I feel like that was what this arc was really trying to do, other than trying to grow the game. So I feel like he didn't really need to be a part of this arc, but I will say though, it was a little bit disappointed. And 2 characters that you might be, or 3 characters, excuse me, that you might be surprised I'm talking about. Bakuro, Maguru, and Khan. Really, the only one I think was great, I felt like was okay during this arc, was Maguro. He was the only one that actually dueled. He dueled against Yuga, and then we never saw him again. I thought he was a pretty interesting character. Definitely reminded me of Mako Tsunami from Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters, being a fisherman and all of that. And even though we didn't really learn much about him, I thought it was a pretty cool character. Maybe he'll come back. I don't know. Maybe they did like, I don't know, like a tournament arc or something like that. There you go. You can bring the character back if you did like a tournament arc or something like that. So maybe we'll see this character. I don't know. But definitely disappointments was Bakuro and Khan. They didn't do anything this arc at all. I don't think we really got much from them. I mean, they've talked into it, but I feel like they more talked on the last episode, and that was the route for Yuga. They were definitely disappointments, which I even said it at the Birth of Rush Duels end of arc series that I did. way back in episode 13. I felt like they weren't going to really do that much. Honestly, I didn't think Metsuboro or Yoshio were going to do anything either. So I was a little bit kind of disappointed. Like, you guys knew that if you guys were at the very beginning, that I didn't really care for these characters really that much. And I felt like this arc, they didn't grow at all. They are still the same wave with me. I feel like I'm a little bit on the lower side of them, but I feel like, again, maybe like a tournament arc or something like that, they might come back. Or, you know what? Maybe they'll actually replace Metsuboro and Yoshio's rules. Maybe they'll give them a chance to duel in the next arc. I have no idea, but for right now, they were just a disappointment in my eyes. Next, we'll actually talk about the two other duelists. The first one I'll actually go over is Metsuboro. Metsuboro kind of was the same for me still. I feel like in this arc, I'm still okay with him. I think he might have grown on me a little bit, but I'm still on the okay-ish side of him. I think he is interesting, but honestly, his motivations, I just have not really clicked on it yet. I feel like just wanting to make ramen dueling a thing, I just really was not hot on it. It kind of reminded me, do you guys remember a character in Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal where you had the tomato guy that wanted to make a tomato utopia if he won the world duel carnival? That's what Metsuboro kind of feels like to me. And to be honest, I didn't really care for that character at all. I don't really have to say much for him. Maybe I have a little bit more tolerance for Metsuboro, but I don't know. I feel like his interactions with Soraka, which we'll talk about a little bit later, I feel like was really cool for two characters that loved ramen to kind of duke it out with each other. I thought was a really cool concept, honestly. And he got his first win in the series as well. He was able to beat Soraka and keep them from getting a penalty, so he was able to grow there. And yeah, that's not really much to talk about Metsuboro, but that's my thoughts on him. Now, I will say, though, that the order that I did this was a little bit weird, but there's a reason why. I wanted to talk about this character last because this character actually did really impress me, to be completely honest. This character became from my least favorite character to probably one of my favorite characters from the side characters, Yoshio. I feel like when he dueled his mother, I felt like it was something that this character really needed to really get me behind this character. You know, when we started off the episode in episode 21, or 20, excuse me, he was trying to struggle on what he wants to do for his future. He didn't know what he really wanted to do when he got older. He didn't really know what his path was going to be. In fact, he had to go to Rook of all people to kind of try to figure this out. And he ended up participating in this duel to basically try to find that path of where he should go going forward, and it made me really respect that character. I feel like it might be just something really simple, but honestly, something simple like that, I really did like Metsuboro as a character. I thought he was great during this arc. I thought him getting a win over his mother, I thought was really cool. I mean, he beat one of the members of Top of Hexagon, which I don't know if that's honestly really a good thing. I mean, we saw what Neil did to 5 of them, and you had Yoshio beating one of them, which was ranked number 6, assuming that means she's like the lowest one out of the Top of Hexagon members. So I don't know if that's a big deal or not, but I feel like he definitely grew on me a lot. I mean, I still don't like that Brave Max kind of like persona that he has. Or no, that's someone from Yu-Gi-Oh! Reigns. See, that's the problem. You're watching Yu-Gi-Oh! Reigns and you're watching Yu-Gi-Oh! Sevens, and you get characters confused, but you have this like biker kind of thing. I don't remember what they called it. I think it was like something, but I think it is something like Brave Max or something like that. But I know that's a Vrain's character, so forgive me if I don't remember what they're referencing, okay? I've watched a lot of shows and I can't remember them all. But I was glad that they actually really dropped that out and kind of almost made it feel like he came out of his shell and was going forward on the road. Like, I like the interpretation where he was like on the road, and you even had the monster, like you had that big old lion on 2 monster trucks when they were destroying those Mimi's monsters. I thought was incredible. I really did like his ace monster a lot, and really that's much to talk about Yoshio, again, he didn't really do that much either. I feel like those two characters grew, but they really didn't do much in the series. I feel like they only appeared. No, I didn't feel like they did appear those one episodes and then they went away. So yeah, not really much to talk about those two characters, but that's okay. I feel like they're still kind of side characters. I mean, they're not part of the main group, so that's a fair statement to make. But I do feel like we're gonna see those characters again. More so, I feel like in the tournament arc. I feel like they might bring them back in the next arc and they'll duel again, but I feel like they might give Bakuro and Khan a chance. I feel like that's what they're gonna do. But hey, I've been wrong before, so we'll just have to wait and see. Now, I will say though, for the Neo's team, I'm gonna mostly combine all of the people on Neo's team as kind of like one separate part of this character discussion. I decided to actually pull one character that dueled on Neo's team away from that and kind of talked about her as her own separate thing, because I feel like she did a lot more than these other characters did, and I'll even include Tapa Hexagon in there as well. So stay tuned for that. But the character I decided to pull out of it was Mimi. And Mimi, I wanted just to talk about her by herself. Same with Yoshio. I felt like it was in the same regards. Really did like to see the growth that she had in there. You know, we got to see Mimi's side of things where she works day and night to support her child. She goes to work every single day to work her butt off at the Goa Corporation just to come back to take care of her son. Really made me respect her a lot, and she tries the best to be the best mom that she can be to support her son, and that's why I feel like when episode 8 came around and she allowed him to actually keep on rush dueling, even though she's still trying to eliminate them, which I feel like she's kind of like been wavering on it. I mean, I remember she didn't actually go with the top of Hexagon members when she met up with Neil. In fact, she was on the top of the Goha building, which now kind of thinking about it, well, no, she left, never mind. I was thinking, like, how did she, like, get on there and how did she leave? Because didn't, like, Yuga and Neil duel, but she was on the outside, she was watching the duel. I forgot about that scene, so my bad. I thought she was still in the building for a second. I was like, hopefully she was okay, but anyway, she got off the building, so that's fine. But I feel like seeing that growth for her was really great as well, and even though she did lose her duel, I feel like the point was still came clear. I feel like she did what she needed to do, and I really did enjoy her character. And then she revealed herself to the other crew that she was the mother of Yoshio, and that she was not this 7th grade kid, and that she was actually this 30-year-old woman as a Goha spy. And I'm kind of glad that they kind of got that out. I don't know what her role with the cast, with like the main group, is going to be going forward. I don't know if she's going to be a part of the next arc. Oh, well, I feel like she is going to be a part of the next arc. I just don't know what she's honestly going to do. So it's going to be very interesting to see what that, but I can't wait to see what more comes with Mimi Adachi. So yeah, that's going to be it for the main character. So I'm just going to go off these characters real quick because I kind of have similar opinions about each of these characters. So let me name off every single character that was part of Neil's team except for Mimi. We had Schrodinger, Geta, Sebastian, and Sorako. And then I'm going to add the top of Hexagon members, but they're not going to be part of Neil's team. I wanted to include them in here as well. My thoughts on all of these characters. There was only, honestly, 2 characters that I felt like were okay in this arc. Or 3. I think I can go with 3. Geta, Sebastian, and Sorako, I thought were interesting characters. I thought they were okay. I just felt like they didn't really bring that much. I mean, we only saw them duel once. I mean, Sebastian just was talking most of the time. I felt like he was just bragging about him being like the greatest share that was ever created, and that Neil Sama is the only one that can sit on his throne, basically, that has the right to sit on him as he thinks of him as a king, basically, and basically was like a commentator during that final Neil duel. So I will say though, for Sebastian, unless Neil appears in the show again, I don't think we're going to see Sebastian again. I do believe that. Geta, we already know he's going to stay in the show. I mean, he was able to survive a fall. I don't know how far of a drop it was. I feel like it had to be a pretty far drop, but he was able to survive a pretty devastating loss against Roa and was completely fine afterwards. I mean, we saw him in episodes 24 and 26. I think he might have been in episode 25, but he went back to normal after the whole conflict. I thought that was a little bit weird, and even the way they did that at the end, I didn't. You guys know I didn't really like the fact that they made that joke and then he basically let himself go because of anger and he made him drop down the hole. I didn't really like that. Though I will say, though, I did like the backstory that we got on it. I thought that was a great part of his character. Sorako, really interesting. I don't know if she's going to appear back in the series again. I feel like if they do, I feel like it's going to be more of a space type theme because I feel like, because she did mention that she has other alien friends. I mean, they do take her away and take her back up to space, which, geez, this became a whole sci-fi talk about this character in that episode. And I feel like unless we do something with the alien characters, I feel like we're not going to see Sorako again. Schrodinger. Didn't care for him at all. Hope that he never appears again. Oh, and I missed Arya. Same with him. I do not want to see that character. I honestly would rather see Schrodinger more than Arya. Did not like Arya at all. I really do not like cheating characters in Yu-Gi-Oh! Or just people that think highly of themselves. I really do not like that. Or at least combining the two, I should say, because you have some arrogant characters, but you can make a way to like an arrogant character, but did not like him at all. I feel like Schrodinger just felt like a one-shot character, honestly, more than any of these characters. I mean, he looked basic. He looked like a basic character just in a cat suit, so yeah. And then the top of Hexagon characters, very disappointed in them. I mean, they got, I bet they got smoked by Neil. I mean, they were basically threatening to kick him out and take over, like, the Rush Duels program from Neil and, like, take it as their own. And they were not able to put up a fight, and they got destroyed by Neil, which was very, very surprising. I am shocked that they did that. We don't know anything about these characters. I think this just kind of took away from them being a part of a major arc, unless for, I don't know how you can put these characters back in there if you give them, maybe if you give them maximum cards or fusion cards or whatever the case. I think these characters are done with because they just got obliterated. I mean, and they do look like basic characters. I feel like with some series, you can kind of tell if they're going to be important or not. I don't know much about these characters in particular, but I think after this, I think they're done. I don't think they're going to be really major in the story, which is definitely a big letdown, but honestly, it happens sometimes. I mean, we thought Soul Technologies from Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrains was going to be a big thing, and look what ended up happening with that. The Arcadia movement from 5Ds, a lot of people thought Satyr was going to be a main villain, and maybe you have some revenge from Aki. Didn't end up happening. So there's been times where, like, these corporations or whatever the case might be, these cults or whatever, they sometimes feel like they aren't going to be used, or they aren't used, I should say. And I feel like that's going to be the case with these top of Hexagon members. So yeah, a little bit disappointed on those two characters. The other characters were okay, but yeah, not really the biggest on them. I will say though, Neil's team was a disappointment too. I know I'm sounding really, really negative right now, and that's why I kind of wanted to save it closer to the end, but not a single member of Neil's team won a duel. I mean, you had Rook versus Schrodinger, which I'm basically already going... You know what? Let me go over the duels real quick for you guys. So the duels, I wanted to do it just in this segment. So the duels of this arc, you had Rook versus Schrodinger, Rook won. You had, I had to remember the duels for a second. I'm going to talk about this arc first, and well, you also had the duel between Yuga and Maguro. I'll just add that real quick. You had the Roa versus Ikeda duel. Roa won. You had Yuga versus Sebastian. Yuga won. You had Yoshio versus Mimi, and we're going to count Mimi as Neil's team, even though the whole system thing, which I thought that was cool, but yeah, I feel like that was his own separate thing. I don't count that as like part of Neil's team, so... I mean, the system just said it itself, so I don't think you can really count that as Neil's team. But still, Yoshio won that duel. Metsuboro versus Sorako was Metsuboro's win. And then that was the rest of his team, and then we got into Neil, and then we had the duel with Otis against Roman, Rook, and Gakuto, in which case all three of them ended up winning. We had the two Neil versus Yuga duels. Neil won the first one, and then Yuga won the second one. So I thought the last four duels were great. I really did enjoy them. I was a little bit disappointed with the Otis duel between the three, because it was just like the first episode. It was only two turns in that duel. You had him summoning Red Eyes Black Dragon, which was great to see. I mean, he's appeared in a lot of the Yu-Gi-Oh series. I mean, he was used by two characters as like their ace. You had Joey, obviously, that used it, and even Rex used it as well. And then you had Atticus, Alexis's brother, use it. And then you even have, what is that? Roku. Roku used it in Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal when he faced Yuma in that Statue World duel. So we've seen Red Eyes before, and it was great to see him again in this arc. And he just totally obliterated them, and then they came back and won. Felt like the duel was too short, but I feel like it was cool to see Red Eyes again. But both of the Neil duels were definitely high for me in terms of dueling quality. I think even though it was a short duel, I feel like it was completely fine. I mean, I think of the Jack versus Yuya duel, and that was quick, because I remember during that duel that someone in the crowd like said, beat him in 3 turns. It's like Jack said, you got it, I will beat him in 3 turns. And he like explained what each turn was going to be, and that ended up happening. And I felt like that kind of impact happened with this duel, and I absolutely loved it. I will say though, even though I loved the second duel was great, I'm going to say I like the first duel just a little bit more. I mean, I was really impressed with the duel. The back and forth was incredible. I thought it was really good. In fact, when Neil kept activating like paradigm shift, and it kept sending Yuga's monsters back to the graveyard, like I was off my seat. I was so excited for this duel, and it lasted more than 5 turns, which I was really glad about. And I even said that in my review, because all these duels I feel like have been too short for my liking. I like a little bit more of the lengthy duels. I remember like GX, like it had good pacing, and I felt like they were able to go a little bit longer, and I feel like that's what this duel was able to do. Even though, yes, it did last the entire episode. Well, I mean, I guess it's fine if it's a full dueling episode. I don't see why it can't. I don't know why I worded it like that. I think it's fine that it was one duel episode. They need one of those, and then you need a plot episode. So, but getting back to the point, I just think that even though I really did like the duel, I think just the way they did the first duel made me like it just a little bit more, because I don't think anyone expected Yuga to get OTK'd like that. I think he was at least going to put up a fight, but that's not what ended up happening. So that's why I do prefer that duel a little bit more. And maybe with your favorite pick, if one of the two Neil duels isn't, maybe you can say which round did you like more? Did you like the first one, or did you like the second one? I really want to know your guys' thoughts on that. But those were my thoughts on that. And then my least favorite one out of them all, because I want to get my least favorite, has to be Rook versus Schrodinger still. I feel like that duel was not really that interesting. I mean, it was cool to see like the Red Eyes, Blue Eyes, and Odd Eyes for some reason, cat versions of the dragons, but other than that, that duel was just really not that enticing, I'm going to be completely honest. So yeah, that's my thoughts on the duels. And I will say too that the episodes themselves are around the same range. I feel like most of the episodes I thought were okay. I think the last 4 episodes were the biggest like high points for me. I really did like 23, 24, 25, and 26. The other ones were okay, but I feel like just the last 4 were the ones that really kept me more enticed. And just like with the duel ratings, I feel like episode 23 was my favorite episode out of all 13 episodes. Just learning about Neil's provenance and what he meant by that, I thought was really cool. It kind of understands what his whole mindset is and what he believes in. And then it was the first time we saw maximum summoning, and then that duel was insane. The fact of Yuga getting OTK'd, again, no one really expected that, so having all those factors in there just makes it a fantastic episode. And same thing with episode 17 being my least favorite. For the same reasons, I just really was not enticed in that episode, so I feel like those were pretty consistent. I feel like that's going to be a constant thing going on with these episodes and duels going forward. I think they're just going to be rated around the same way, because I feel like a lot of me liking the episodes is from the duels, and then maybe like the dialogue from it, because I thought the dialogues were great during I think the dialogue during episode 23 was great, and even 26 as well. I think 26 could be a good contender on there as well, but I think 23 was just a little bit better than 26, if I'm going to be completely honest. So yeah, that's where I got my thoughts on the episodes. Now I'm actually going to now rate everything. I'm going to be rating each of the episodes, and then before I end off the video, I will make a prediction of where I think this series is going to go. So not wasting any time, and let's get right into it. So I'm actually going to be reading 3 different things right now. I am going to be doing episodes 23 through 26 as one rating. I'm going to do episodes 14 through 22 as one rating, and then do everything as a whole rating. And there is a reason why I do it. I am doing it, excuse me. So let's get into it. I'm going to start with 23 through 26. And it's a solid 8 out of 10 for me. I really did enjoy those last 4 episodes. Again, it really got me enticed with this series, because even though, yeah, I was still like involved with the other episodes, and I was excited to see what the next episode brought. These episodes, I was really enticed in. I mean, it got to the point where 25 and 26, or 26, I was literally out of my chair because of the excitement of the duel. Like, I thought 26 was insane. I thought 23 was incredible. Like, my jaw was literally on the floor from excitement. Like, I got some extreme reactions from these episodes because I just really, really enjoyed them. I think basically every one of those episodes was rated at least a 8 out of 10, and then, well, except for 23 and 24. 23 I would put as a 9 out of 10, and then I'll put 24 as a 7 out of 10, but the balance there would make it 8 out of 10. So I kind of did some math with it. So yeah, I really did enjoy these 4 episodes, and for episodes 14 through 22, might seem a little bit harsh to people, but I'm giving 14 through 22 a 4 out of 10. The reason for that is that I feel like each of the episodes were just okay. I don't think they were on the levels as what the last 4 episodes brought. I think the only one that even had that capability of being up there is episode 20, but I think it was just because of it was a mother versus son duel, and just the relationship between those two and what they were going through, I think was a high point for me. And I feel like each one of these episodes, if I had to rate every episode, I think each of them would be around 4 out of 10. They would either be 4 out of 10, 3 out of 10, or 5 out of 10. So I feel like 4 is perfect. It might be a little bit low, especially since that's a majority of the episodes, but I just feel like I was just not enticed with Neil's team, and that's specifically why I combined those together, and I decided just to combine 14 and 15 with them. I thought they were good. 15 was an okay episode, and 14 was an okay episode. 14 was for the plot, but most of it was Roman's kitchen, and even though it was cool doing something new, and it's probably just because I'm not the biggest when it comes to like watching cooking things, which is weird because growing up I watched like Gordon Ramsay stuff on TV because it would always appear on TV, so my parents would watch it, and I would just watch it with them. So I don't know why I don't know why that episode was not the seller point, was the Roman's kitchen, but that was also the plot episode as well. And then you had the fisherman guy Meguro in episode 15, and I felt like it was a cool duel, but I don't know. I definitely enjoyed the duels more in the later later episodes than this one. Well, the Meguro one was rated pretty high, I believe. I think that duel was actually third. Now thinking about it, I think I had that duel pretty high rated. I thought it was an enjoyable duel, and it was cool to see that big old robot tuna ace monster that kid had. I thought that was a really cool ace monster, but everything else I think was just okay. Neil's team was just a big letdown for me when you put it in a Heinz perspective. I just really could not get behind it because none of them were a threat to Yuga and his team. I mean, every single one of them lost their duel. It only took until really Neil to even put put a block in the road for Yuga's team because they were just wiping the floor. Well, I shouldn't say wiping the floor. They weren't OTKing these characters, but they were. His team was just getting smacked, and I was just not really a big fan of that. I really wished that at least one of them put a challenge up, whether that be Sebastian or whether that be Soraka or whoever it could be. I feel like if at least one of them was able to take the team a peg down or two, I think it would be really, really good for his team. But it took Otis taking 60% of the penalties before it got intense, which I'm going to be honest, and that's another reason why I kind of rate it a little bit lower on that side, is I kind of wish they didn't just give 60% of the penalties to Otis to put them in that 5 situation. Maybe you could have had... I don't know how they could have potentially do it. The only way I think they could have done it is if they had Soraka win against Mitsuboro, and then who would they have to... You know what would have been interesting, actually, now thinking about it? I wonder what would have happened if Mimi and Yoshio draw. Would they both get penalties, or would none of them get penalties? If they each receive a penalty, if that was the case, I think that would have been incredible. I think that would even intensify more going into that next episode, because it would be like, oh shoot, not only do we have to be careful of who we're dueling because we can get a penalty because they can be considered by the system as part of Team Yuga, but because we just drew, we have 2 penalties. So if that happens again, we can end up quickly getting these penalties, and we might not even be... Well, they would notice because it's on their duel disc, but those penalties could come really quickly, and it can... In a blink of an eye, boom, you have 6 penalties right there, and your counts are deleted. So that would have been really cool to see something like that as well. It's kind of weird that we didn't see a draw, which I don't think Yu-Gi-Oh! Really has done a situation like that before, and I wish they would do something like that. I feel like... Well, I guess Vrains did it with, like, the Bowman duel, but... I don't know. I think a draw would have been really cool there, but that's just my opinion. So, for all the episodes in total... would give it a 6 out of 10. I think that is a pretty fair one. That's actually in between like a 4 out of 10 rating and an 8 out of 10 rating. So I think that kind of understands that. I feel like for me personally, I feel like the last 4 episodes definitely carried this arc, and I feel like Neil as a character, when he really got involved, like when he actually stepped on the duel field and actually started taking action himself, I really felt like those episodes carried what the other episodes couldn't. I feel like once that got in there, I think everything just went up for me, because I was afraid that... Well, honestly, one of my biggest fears at the beginning was that they would just get 1 penalty and that was it. Because I remember when episode 23 came out, and I was really, really worried because we were already dueling Neil and we only had 1 penalty, so I was like, are we really going to end the season or like our arc right there? Are we just going to duel Neil and that's it? And then maybe have a couple filler episodes? Maybe you have a, I don't know, a Ruck Roman duel. I don't know what it would have been, but if they went that route. But definitely knocking them down a peg, and even like showing the bond between the characters, and just having Yuga grow as a character during those episodes, I felt like carried the other episodes, and it picked up what I was kind of missing for the show. Like from those episodes, what I was kind of wanting those episodes to kind of have. I mean, if those episodes had at least half the intensity of what Neil brought, I think this could have been a 7 or an 8 out of 10, honestly. And even though I say it's a 6 out of 10, a 6 out of 10 is not that bad. Sure, if you did it grade-wise like at school, that's an F. But honestly, in my rating system, I don't think that's bad at all. I think a 4 out of 10 is okay. I think a 2 out of 10 or 1 out of 10 is bad. Honestly, 3 out of 10 I don't think is okay, and 5. 6, 7, 8, and 9, 10, I felt like are good. I don't think they're, well, 10 out of 10 is awesome, and 9 out of 10 is great, and I would say the rest is probably good. But I just felt like those first couple of episodes, I feel like needed to be a little bit more serious because of the fact that these kids are losing their risks in their accounts going into these duels, as that they lose, they get a penalty, and I felt like they didn't really take it that seriously. I think of the Geta duel, and they made the joke about the drum robot that Yugioh would have made for Ro, which I don't even know that's gonna. I wonder if they're gonna bring that back into the show, where he actually built a dueling or a drumming robots. I wonder if they're gonna actually go back to that, or is that just gonna be a joke and that's never gonna be touched on again? I had to guess, never gonna be touched again. But Yu-Gi-Oh! Sevens has proved me wrong. I mean, they brought back stuff before, so yeah, I think that was pretty cool as well. And that's really going to be it for that. I'm going to just go over my predictions real quick for this arc, or for the next arc. Obviously, we're going to have we already know who our next villain is, Roman Hassan. And I feel like this arc, I mean, we know that there's 3 other characters. One of the biggest things that I want from this arc is I want more growth from like Rook, Roman, and Gakuto. Those are the main ones, and maybe even Roa as well. I want to put him in there as well. I really want them to grow as characters as well. I mean, we just had an arc where Yuga grew a lot, and yes, I feel like our protagonist still needs to grow, but definitely give these characters more growth. And if you don't want to jump into it right away, because if you remember, we didn't jump right into it in episode 14. We had that whole Roman cooking episode, and then we had the Meguro duel. So even before that, maybe we can get some, like, a little bit of story with these characters before we get into the main story. Maybe we can get a duel with Roman, and maybe I don't know, maybe you can have, I don't know. I was trying to think of something you can really do, but I don't know. Maybe you could do something with Roa. Maybe Roa had to pick up an errand. She had to do something. I don't know. Just maybe build these up a little bit more. And maybe you have like maybe grow a story or something like that, or like get a story started. I don't know. I feel like like Roman and Gakuto, those 2 mainly, need to have a story with them to grow a little bit more, or at least for me, because I feel like them just dueling and being supports of Yuga, I mean, that's fine, but I want them to do a little bit more. I don't know if that's going to be this arc or not, but maybe just have a little mini arc for them before we go into that. So, and I would do that at the beginning. If you're going to do any of that, I would do that in the beginning, and maybe do like what you were doing remember during the Birth of Rush Duels arc, you would have these like very interesting duels, and then maybe the last couple of minutes would be something about the main antagonist. So I would like if they did something like that, and then you can jump into it maybe 4 or 5 episodes after they were reviewed, and then really get into the plot or something like that. That way you could just build up these characters before you go into this. But I don't know what they're going to really do in terms of Roman Hassan. I really don't know. They might do the same way that they did before. I really don't know. A worry that they have is I hope they don't just do the same thing that they did with this last arc, with the Maximum Arc, where Yuga's team just got to duel for their accounts, which it looks like they're just going to be going after Rush Duels themselves. They're not going to go after the accounts, so I don't know what they're going to do, to be completely honest, but I'm really intrigued to see what would happen. If I had to make a guess of what they would do, I think they would try to find information on it. Maybe they will send in like a spy or something like that. Maybe the guy on the left, which kind of looks like a magician, I'm going to be completely honest. And then, or maybe the right character, which I don't even know what really character would be. But another thing that's cool now, kind of thinking about it, is that this is actually going to be our first girl antagonist, if you don't count Queen from Yu-Gi-Oh! Reigns, which I guess, well, I don't think you can really count her because she wasn't part of a main arc. Because, yeah, she was in that arc during the, like, last season, but she lost the eye and never was seen again. So I don't really count her. I mean, she did do some intense stuff, and she did some stuff to make her seem like a main antagonist, but we didn't really have a Soul Technologies arc, so you can't really say that. But this would be our first girl in terms of the anime, because the manga you had Zack Soul's manga and Arc 5's manga had female antagonists. So I think it's possible. I don't know why they haven't done it for so long, which I think it's cool. I know a lot of people are excited for it, and obviously I am excited for it. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I really am. But I'm just wondering if that's gonna bring the levels that I'm kind of expecting, like if you would have from a guy character, which I think I do. I don't think there has to be really that main of a difference. I think if you have a character like Queen and have her the way she was acting during the show, I think would be perfectly fine. Just don't make her lose to an AI in an OTK and then never see her again. That would be a disappointment. But I don't think they're going to do that. So I'm very excited to see what this arc is going to bring. Again, I just don't know what they're going to do yet. But I think for now, I just want them to kind of grow the characters first, or at least build something up to where if these characters do lose, they can maybe go. Or you know what? If you want to get right in, like if you don't want to take like a 5 episodes to get into it, take like 2 or 3 episodes before you get into it, and then when these characters, because I feel like some of them have to lose. Rook has to lose at least once during this arc or the next arc. He needs to at least lose one duel, I feel like, because I feel like that's going to be the best way to grow his character. Same with Roman and Gakuto. Gakuto is in an interesting situation because he just won his first duel, and I feel like a loss would. Well, no, I think in an intense state, if one of those 3 end up losing, heck, even Roa, I feel like you can really grow something from there. The biggest one is just Rook. I feel like Rook needs to lose one of these duels and needs to kind of like get back up in his feet and actually start dueling. And maybe that's when he requires his new ace monster. I mean, we know that Rook and Roman actually has ace monsters. Rook's newest pack, it actually is going to have a new kind of Dragears monster, and then we didn't actually see that Roman ace monster that we saw in the last pack that came out. So hopefully we see that, and that's why I said like maybe you start a couple episodes before you get into it, and maybe show off that card real quick before we go into the next arc, because I feel like that card is outdated, especially since we already have cards from Maximum Transcendence, which is the new pack that's supposed to be coming out for Rush Duels, the strengthening pack, I should say. So hopefully they really do something like that to kind of get that card shown before, or at least you can, well, I guess you can put it in the arc as well. But I think a little like fun duel before that, I think would be really interesting. So yeah, that's just my predictions on it, and that's gonna be it, guys, for this Yu-Gi-Oh! End of Arc episode. The Maximum arc is now done, guys, and I'm excited to see what the next arc is going to bring. I don't have a name for the next arc yet. If there is a name for the new arc, please let me know either in this video or let me know in the episode 27 summary / preview analysis that should be coming out today as well. I'm actually gonna this episode or this end of arc series is probably going to be uploaded on Friday. I really wanted to get it out Thursday, but just I bet you guys that this editing is going to take a minute, because this is about like an hour-long video, and expect it with the end of arc series. I mean, that's not something that is going to be expected with this, because I'm literally talking about 13 episodes. I mean, I put those literally in 20-minute videos, and then you're condemning down to an hour basically. So, and then predicting what's going to be happening in the future. So it's expected to be long, or at least I just need to expect that it's going to be long, because I always underestimate what this is going to take. I think this is going to take like 45 minutes, but I was proven wrong, which is completely fine. But guys, that's going to be it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, guys, take care, and I cannot wait for this next arc, and I hope you guys come with me for this journey as we go into the next arc of Yu-Gi-Oh! Sevens.